As retired and active police officers, we all know that you can buy gear from a lot of different places, especially online. But I want to remind you of the importance of supporting companies that support law enforcement. I don't know of any company that fits that bill more than Goals. At Goals.com, their motto is proud to serve those who serve, which they do every single day. And they walk the talk by supporting dozens of focused organizations like Gold Shields. So when you're looking for gear, support our premier sponsor and go to goals.com. And for our loyal listeners to this show, use the code GOLD15 for 15% off your next purchase until October 31st. Go to goals.com today.
Welcome to Gold Shields. Join NYPD veterans Tom Smith and Dan Murphy. With over 50 years of combined experience chasing drug lords, dismantling cartels, and hunting terrorists. Now they pull back the curtain, sharing raw, unfiltered stories from the front lines and the heroes who stood beside them. No topics off limits. This is real. This is true crime. This is Gold Shields.
Hey, welcome back to Gold Shields. This is Dan Murphy along with my partner in crime, Tom Smith. How are you today, brother?
I'm good, man. Excited about this one. This is going to be a little chilling.
Yeah, we have a guest today. We're honored and we're very lucky to have his time. He's an expert in this area. Few people are experts in the area that they claim to be, but this gentleman is. And he is slightly different twist. We've had people talk about serial killers and craze killers and stuff. This is a guy that talks to them and has spent a lot of his professional career learning and getting inside the mind of these people. I can't wait for this discussion, Tom.
Yeah, we've had shows before that we discuss serial killers, and I think in the true crime world, which, we're part of, there's not a bigger subject that gets talked about that people want to hear about than serial killers. I mean, that is the kind of top notch of the crime world because of what goes into them. It's so there's so many different levels of personalities and strategies and all the stuff that goes into it. And Phil Chalmers is the top guy. I mean, doing it for 40 years. YouTube channel, Serial Killers, The Experience. He's a best-selling author of a great book we're going to get into. And it's just an honor. And this is going to be a blast hearing about all this. Phil, welcome to Gold Shields, buddy. It's a pleasure.
Good to be on. Thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate it.
Well, to start off with, how did you get into this world? I mean, that's a question that needs to be answered. How does one get into this world?
I kind of backed into this world. I never imagined I'd be doing what I'm doing today. So it all started out 40 years. I've been doing this 40 years. So 1985, I go to college in 83. I don't like college. I quit in 85. I launched this company and I started working with troubled kids, juvenile rapists, juvenile killers. And I was working with troubled kids. I started speaking to kids. I started doing school assemblies. One thing led to another. And I felt that there was starting to be some teen violence. And I wanted to find out why kids were killing their parents in the 80s and shooting up schools in the 90s. So I started interviewing juvenile killers and school shooters. And I wrote a couple books on that. Came out in the 2009 was my big release, Inside the Mind of a Teen Killer. And it was a landmark book, big book. Thomas Nelson did it. And I figured out why kids kill. And then after I kind of felt like I did enough for the juveniles, I did another book in 2010 or 2015. But then I turned my attention around 2005, 2010, just to serial killers. Again, the mission is, well, how do you become a serial killer? How does that happen? And in the midst of doing that, I've learned a lot. And this book that just came out, Speaking Truth to Evil, it's on Amazon now. And it's not only updating the research from the early profilers, Douglas and Ressler and those guys, Hazelwood, but it's also destroying a lot of the myths that everybody believes today. When I say everybody, like almost everybody believes the myths. And so I kind of shatter all the myths and give people a good education on what is a serial killer. And I'd love to do some of that with you guys today.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it would be outstanding. And you're so right with the myths. And Dan and I don't know, what obviously, but what are some of the crazy myths that people get into with serial killers or school shooters or whatever it is that you're diving into? What are some of the myths that you had to crack
Those just
through?
the big myths of serial killers. Number one, Most people think you have to kill 5, 10, 15 people to be a serial killer. The brand new definition of the FBI is you only have to kill 2 with a cooling off period. So that surprises people. A lot of people think serial killers are white. Well, only 30% today. 60% are black. Also Hispanic and Asian. People think serial killers are killing females, women. It's 50-50. Men can easily be a victim of a serial killer. It's actually 51-49 for women, but it's very close. Those are just 3 quick myths. Serial killers kill up close and personal, strangulation, stabbing, bludgeoning. No longer true. The number one way serial killers kill today is gunfire. They shoot their victim. And they still strangle, stab, and bludgeon, but mostly shooters now. So your typical profile today is a black male shooting people around, in town. Like the DC snipers, it's becoming more of a common thing.
So the FBI's new definition, bringing it down to 2 with a cooling off period. Do you think that's an honest assessment, given the fact that there are many people, let's say, in the drug trade who kill to protect or kill to enforce within their organization?
Well,
and
they're not supposed to count those kind of killers, drugs, gangs, hitmen, mafia. It's people killing because they love killing.
Got it. Okay. That's clearer then. Yeah. Well, then I would agree with that, because if we're going to sit around and wait till somebody kills 4 or 5 people before we start categorizing them and putting the effort into getting them as a serial killer, then as a society, we're in bad shape.
And Dan, a serial killer definition, I mean, it's a serial killer killing in a series of murders. So then you have to ask, how many do you have to kill to be a series? Well, 2. That's a series, I always wondered why it was 3. I mean, if you kill someone, take a break and do it again, you're a serial killer.
Right. Agreed. And I think and Dan, that's a great point with you have, and the world that me and you came from. I mean, you had groups killing people at will, because of territory and getting ripped off and all that. So if they threw them in the middle of their serial killer numbers, it'd be through the roof. So it's a good thing they don't do that. I just asked you about the myths. So let's go on kind of the other side. What are the similarities that you've seen that you can see something or see something on the news or whatever and go, boom, that's one. That's one of many that may come. What are the signs that stick out to you that something started?
Well, there are some signs, warning signs for early childhood of serial killers. The triad, the homicidal triad, the McDonald triad, bedwetting, animal cruelty, setting fires. I throw in voyeurism, peeping Tom, that kind of stuff. But once the serial killers are adults and they're active, it's very hard to catch them. They have to make a mistake. Most serial killers are only caught because they made a mistake. They got careless. They got overconfident. It's very hard to catch a serial killer killing strangers, right? It's very difficult. That's why they're active for so long. But we do look at a couple things when I'm working with law enforcement. And there's an active serial killer in Austin. There's one in New England. There's one in Oklahoma right now, right? So have you picked anybody up for voyeurism in the last few years? Has anybody been released from prison for rape? Has anybody been released from prison for child molestation? A lot of serial killers start out as voyeurs, child molesters, rapists. 85% of serial killers have been arrested before. So I would tell law enforcement, look at your books, look at your paper, who's been arrested. Who are your suspects that have already been in prison? I would look at those guys.
So when it comes to serial killers, we tend to look at, in order to identify it, you've just mentioned several states that have active, labeled or identified serial killers that are out there killing people. And they're doing it. And the only way to put that together would have all commonalities in the crime scene, commonality, the MO, the victim, all that kind of stuff. But then you occasionally have somebody like the Zodiac in California who shot and killed a cab driver and broke the pattern. So how much of that do you see in your study?
There's 2 things I teach in my new book. It's the signature and the MO. So the signature is the killer's calling card that they leave at the scene every time. It doesn't really have anything to do with the murder. As an example, the Boston Strangler would talk his way into women's home, measure them, strangle them, rape them. And then before he left, he would take their clothes off, spread their legs, and put a bow around their neck. That was the signature. Dahmer would cut the head off, put him in a weird pose, let rigor mortis set in, have sex with a corpse. He did this every time. BTK would always use a clove hitch knot. He would always secure the hands, feet, but he did something strange. He also secured and bound the knees. Nobody does that. So there's a signature that ties these cases together. The Englewood killer in Chicago took the car keys every time. Or I'm sorry, he took the shoes, and the Baton Rouge serial killer in Louisiana took their car keys. And they have this pattern to do it every time. That kind of ties the cases together. The MO, the modus operandi, how the killers kill, the mode of operation, that does change. And the scary part is a lot of people in law enforcement think the MO never changes. So when a serial killer does change your MO, it throws off. Most law enforcement is thrown off. For example, BTK, the first 7 victims were left in the house. The last 3 victims were put in plastic bags, put in his vehicle, and taken from the scene. Police were looking for 2 serial killers. A lot of people can't get past 1 victim strangled, 1 stabbed, 1 set on fire, 1's drowned. Same killer, right? But we have to understand that the signature never changes. The MO often does. That's kind of how it works.
Wow, that's a great point. And I think of, we had Gil Correa on with Richard Ramirez and the Night Stalker, and what they had to go through with a just variety of deaths and murders all over the map, and him trying to convince everyone, no, it's the same guy, and people saying, no, it's not. And he ended up being right. Going back to the crime scenes. Is it, and I always want to know this, and I'm so glad you're on, it's one of my things that I always thought about, the setting up of a crime scene like you just described. Is that a conscious thought for them to do that so everyone knows it's them, or is it just a reaction subconsciously that they do?
It would be their signature, staging, whatever you want to call it, staging or positioning the body, or could be a paraphilia, could be a sexual thing for them. There's 2 reasons why they do it. I don't think they do it by accident. Number 1, it turns them on. Or number 2, they're trying to shock the first responders or the people who find the body. They're so fucking angry that they want to shock the daylights out of the people that find the body. There's a guy called the East Side Killer out in Washington State, and he was pissed that the police didn't say there was a serial killer after they found a woman laying posed behind a dumpster behind McDonald's. So the next 2 victims, he committed some amazing, unbelievable crime scenes that we've never seen before. And he staged the victims. Both victims were bludgeoned, stripped, their legs were spread. The one woman had a rifle inserted in her vagina. The other one was stabbed on every single part of her body and had a sex toy down her throat and a sex book next to her head. That's an anger, retaliatory killer trying to shock everybody who finds the body. A lot of guys, it's sexual in nature to them. Like the railway killer would jump off a train, bludgeon the victims in the nearest house to the railroad tracks, leave their driver's license next to their head, eat all their food, and leave the house. He would do that every time, or Zendes. They have a lot. Bundy would always take the head. He would have sex with them after they're dead, take the head as a trophy. A lot of Bundy's victims were found that the skeletons had no skulls for a reason. So Gacy, every time he would do the rope trick or the handcuff trick, he would then sodomize the dead victim, keep him in his bedroom closet for a couple days, have sex with the corpse, stuff their underwear down their throat, and put him in the crawl space or in the Des Plaines River. They have a thing that they do that turns them on, or there might be a reason they do it, but they do it every time. And it's a good way to connect to crimes. And no, I don't think it's by accident. I think they can't help themselves. And I would say this is kind of leading into what you just said, Tom, is I don't think these guys want to get caught. There's this little myth out there, and this is not part of my book, but there's another myth. They want to get caught. No, they don't want to get caught. They love killing people. They do not want to get caught. It would be very rare for a serial killer to want to get caught. Ed Kemper calls the police and turns himself in. That's rare. That's rare. William Aaron's writes on lipstick on a mirror, catch me please before I kill again. That's rare.
I had a conversation years ago with an FBI agent who was engaged in some of this work, and he told me that, and you can assume this, at any given time there are a certain number of serial killers operating who have not been their crimes have not been linked and identified as serial killers. And those numbers can vary based upon, estimates of people who would know or should be able to guess. What do you think about that? And if you had to say a wild guess at any given time, because this is human nature, it's an anomaly but there's a certain element. If you had a population of 100 million, there's going to be so many with this inclination. How many would you think
There
are
are so
operating?
many crimes that are not tied to serial killers. I agree with you, Dan, for sure. Well, I mean, you only have to kill two people. Lots of them are long haul truckers, which very, very difficult to stop those crimes because it's a moving crime scene, mobile crime scene. The FBI reported that they think there's at least 50 at any given time. I disagree one time with the FBI on this number. I think there's over 100 at any given time. I believe in every major city, Chicago, Houston, Cleveland, LA, New York. I believe at any given time there is an active serial killer in every big city. You only have to kill two people. See, every year there's 16,000 homicides in this country, and there's 4,000 that go cold. So that's 10 years' time. We have 40,000 bodies. We don't know. Those are the ones that we find and know they're dead, right? There's a whole hell of a lot of missing people, too. Somebody's killing those people.
Amazing. Those numbers are just stunning. And no one
I should probably have the number for how many people are missing every year, because then you add that to the number of cold cases. I don't know. It's got to be 3,000 people missing every year at a minimum. So let's just say it's 3,000, 7,000 a year. What happened to those people?
Yeah, absolutely right. And then, like I said, it's chilling to think that, because you don't hear these. These are not topics on the news. They're not topics that are talked about in law enforcement. When these cases are, like you just said, cold, or the sheer numbers of possibilities that are out there of serial killers active in this country are mind blowing.
Can I say something real quick, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's what I want to say to your listeners and your viewers. People, you're relying on the media. You're relying on mainstream media for this knowledge. You cannot do that. The mainstream media is the most biased, racist organization in the world. So you only hear about some missing kids, some big cases, the Idaho 4 Kohlberger, because they're pretty white people, and you never heard about the Alabama birthday party massacre, 36 black teens shot, 4 killed in Alabama. That one didn't make the news, but the Idaho 4 did. So in this book, one of my myths is most serial killers are not white. As 60% of serial killers are black. Okay. And because of that, people they look at me like, I don't believe you. Well, you may not believe me. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been tracking it. I have to do a Google search, multiple Google searches every night to get local news stories. And I've been doing this for 40 years, 4 decades. Most people that are arguing with me haven't been alive for 40 years. And then I say, why is it that you can't name a black serial killer if you're lucky, and there's 1,036 alone that I found in this book, right? Why is that? A lot of people believe myths that the media is feeding, and it's just wrong. And it's one thing to say, okay, the media is wrong, but these are lives at stake, and I take this very serious. There's a lot of our black brothers and sisters, black children, and black females who are victims of black male serial killers that have no idea this crime wave is happening today, and they're in danger, and nobody cares. Nobody works the case. Nobody talks about the case. And I'm the only one out there doing this. An example, guys, would be the Taco Bell Strangler. Now, I live in Mayberry. I live in Mount Airy, Andy Griffith's hometown, Mayberry, North Carolina. I just moved here last week. The serial killer guy lives in Mayberry. Pretty funny. But an hour and a half from me, south, is Charlotte. Okay? Charlotte had the Taco Bell Strangler. This guy was the Taco Bell manager, and he killed 11 women as the Taco Bell manager. And I tell people, not only will Taco Bell's food kill you, the manager, right?
Yeah.
I talked to everybody up here in Mount Airy, in North Carolina, like, we never heard of that case. It's an hour and a half. There's another guy that was killing people in Greensboro. It's an hour from where I live. And he would kill women, dismember their bodies. There was another guy called the Night Stalker. He's the other Night Stalker, and he was killing people an hour from here in Goldsboro, right? So nobody knows these cases, and I say this is a perfect example. When I'm telling you guys, this is in your backyard. You don't know a guy that killed 11 women. You don't know him, and the media just doesn't report these cases, and those families never got coverage. How sad for the victims. So I'm big on the victims. I'm big on all victims, all races, all victims. And I'm the only one talking about this, man. And it's just something I'm passionate about.
You know, one of the things we knew as NYPD cops and detectives, and I learned this early in my career, some old timer told me, he said, kid, nobody cares about anything unless it happens between Bowling Green, the southern tip of Manhattan, and 96th Street. After that, you're going to see crime scenes. You're going to go to them, and there's going to be no press. Nobody's going to care. And he was right. He was absolutely right. And I went to double and triple homicides where the press couldn't have cared less. Maybe page 37, they put a little blurb about 3 people killed in an apartment, apparent drug robbery type of thing. That's it. And so we had this phenomena in police work, which you're well aware of, the dump job. Somebody gets thrown. They're not killed there, but they're thrown there off the side of a highway. Open the car door, throw this body out. And as detectives, you're trying to work with a case with somebody. And now maybe this is a myth or it's true or it's not. But it seemed to me that serial killers, if you have a compulsion to kill, you're going to want to kill people that are going to not bring attention to the case and to the media. You're going to get your thrill out no matter what. So they pick these homeless or prostitutes or, castaways from society. Now, is that something that holds up in your research?
I want to say this to both of you guys. The 2 questions I get immediately when I start telling people what I do is, what's the craziest thing you've learned about serial killers? That they're normal. That they're as normal as you and I. And you would never know they're a serial killer. You'd be sitting next to them at a bar. The second thing is, what do they all have in common? Nothing. Once we approach it that way, you cannot lump them all into Gacy, Dahmer, and Bundy. That's what everybody tries to do. You got the FBI 1970 research that it's organized, disorganized. Come on, man. That shit is 55 years old. Got to get in with what's happening today. They're all different, right? So what you just said, yes, some of them do choose people that are less dead or won't be missed, right? So it's the drug addicted women, it's the prostitutes, it's the sex workers, it's the hitchhikers at the truck stops. Those people won't be missed, right? So there's a group of people that target drug addicts, sex workers, right? But I mean, just as many of them as Ted Bundy grabbing beautiful women off the beach. So, there's their share of that. Or people going into homes and killing women who are at home with their children or something, you can't, it's just it's so different that you can't just lump it all in the same category. So reason I'm watching my phone when it rings, because I get a lot of calls from serial killers. I'll take a live serial killer call right on the podcast if it happens to be. So I'm keeping an eye on it. But that's my take on that.
Looking for powerful defense without the mess? Meet Impact, a revolutionary line of chemical irritants designed for law enforcement, military, and personal protection. With no blowback, no cross-contamination, and easy cleanup, Carry Impact delivers unmatched stopping power without the hassle. Whether you're in the field or on the street, safety should never be compromised. Protect yourself with the next generation of defense. Carry Impact. Stopping power redefined.
Patriot is a premium whiskey hard seltzer. We've carefully crafted 4 flavors that not only taste exceptional, but can be enjoyed on any occasion, anytime. We're committed to giving back 5% of all profits to the core groups we call the backbone of America. We are proud to help those who serve our great country. This is America's Seltzer, the brand that stands for quality, community, and the American spirit.
That would be horrible.
That guy is standing. Believe me, if you got a call, the show is yours at that bit.
So, question before I get to my actual question, and it just popped into my head: was Jack the Ripper the first kind of documented serial killer?
It seems to be. I mean, you go way back in medieval times. I don't study that kind of stuff, but Vlad the Impaler. I've heard some of those names. I pretty much am, the 1920 and on. That's kind of what I specialize in. And I only specialize in the United States. I mean, I know a few names around the world, but pretty much I focus on the United States, 1920 to today.
Very cool. God damn, sorry.
Well, I think you talk about prolific from the African American community. I forgot his first name. Little was his last name. Samuel Little. Just in the last couple of years, that story came out, and he was responsible for how many
93 victims. So I talked to Samuel Little many times. When I first started talking to Little, he would say he was innocent, then he was guilty, then he started, confessing. So what happened? By the way, Samuel Little, who's a black male, killed more than Gacy, Bundy, and Dahmer combined. And can you guys give me 10 seconds? Hold on one second.
Yeah, no worries. So this is amazing stuff. I mean, Samuel Little, 93 proven homicides of female
Samuel
victims.
Little draws all his. This is an actual Samuel Little drawing. We're opening a museum in April, and I've got a ton of stuff, but I've got 4 of these in my museum. I'm going to open up in April. But this is Samuel Little, one of his victims, and he had such a photogenic memory that he drew these victims with their hair, their clothing, their names, and everything. And law enforcement took those images and took him on a cross-country tour. He closed 50 cases, unheard of in law enforcement. He closed it. So at that time, the deadliest American serial killer was the Green River Killer. Gary Ridgway had 49 closed cases. Samuel Little has 50 and counting. So he is America's deadliest serial killer. And his memory was phenomenal. That's why they closed so many cases. He remembered everything about the victim, and enough that he could draw it. And you saw that drawing. That drawing's pretty good. And so that's just kind of stuff that, number one, I have, and we're opening a museum. And number 2, it's just a piece of true crime history, man. It's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. And sick at the same time. So we mentioned in the beginning of the show, and you just mentioned it now, you have a different just story, because it's not just sitting behind a computer, Googling this and researching this. You're literally talking to these people, getting in their heads, getting personality traits, all that. Walk through a couple of your kind of top lists of people that the audience will know, and what you got from them and the feeling you got sitting in front of these people.
So I talked to hundreds of serial killers, Charles Manson, son of Sam David Berkowitz, BTK, Hillside Strangler, Gainesville Ripper, Amityville Horror, Copycat Zodiac from New York City, the Brooklyn Strangler from New York City. The list is, it's pretty long, but I also interviewed a lot of guys who are crazier than them, who nobody knows, which, like the Werewolf Butcher, that's a crazy guy, it's just fascinating. Like I said, these guys are normal, first of all. So the biggest shocker is they're normal. I just can't believe they're normal. They are. I expected to go on death row and meet monsters and people drooling and, fucking trying to kill me. And that's not what happened. They were like visiting my grandpa or my uncle or a family member. And some of them are probably nicer than some of the people I meet on the street. And so, my number one goal when I do an interview, I always tell them, the first thing I'm looking for is cold case confessions. Then I'm looking for bodies. Can you tell us where a victim is? Help the parents out or whatever. And then I always, at the very minimum, I say, tell me something you've never told anybody in your whole life, trying to get new information from them. And we just got a guy from Detroit sent me 25 cold case confessions, 25 unsolved murders. And that's going to be a banger. We're getting ready to start working on that. And then another guy just called me with the cell phone from prison he's not supposed to have and said, I want to confess to 2 murders in Georgia. So we get those, and that's really fun. It's really cool, You just talked about the Night Stalker. This is Richard Ramirez's hand tracing right here. That's a hand tracing of the big old hand of the Night Stalker. Here's a hand tracing of the Hillside Strangler. Well, we'll have a place that you can come to and, learn about this stuff in a museum setting, and it's going to be really cool.
And where is that going to be?
In Mayberry, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Our unofficial saying is come for Andy Griffith and stay for serial killers.
That's perfect.
You know, I always suspected Barney Fife had a dark side to him.
You're going to have Barney Fife's gun in the museum as a tie-in to Mayberry. So
Never fired, dropped once, right?
well, one bullet in a gun, it'll be great.
So, listen, the one question that we've been asked before, we've asked other people before, out of the hundreds you just rattled off, people that you sat in front of, did you ever get that chill of, oh, damn, like this is a different level of evil that's I'm sitting in front of?
Yeah, so it's a lot of guys, but the guys that stick out when people ask me, the ones that just jump to the front of my mind is a guy named the werewolf butcher, Jack Owen Spillman, who I've seen his crime scenes, and they're very horrific crime scenes. The victims are cut from top to bottom, wide open. Their breasts are gone. Their vaginas in their mouth. He drinks their blood. The daughter has an aluminum baseball bat jammed in her body. I mean, it's the most horrific crime scenes I've ever seen. The guy is as creepy as his crime scenes. Now, most of the time when I, look at crime scenes and talk to the killer, they're not creepy at all. But this guy really was. He was, can you send me pictures of, little Asian girls with their legs spread open? I said, no, I don't do that. Another guy is William Clyde Gibson. He sits on Indiana's death row, and he's a sick guy too. Like, he likes to have sex with their corpses, cut off their body parts. He fries up their body parts and eats them, and chops them up, puts them in the Ohio River. He had a woman buried in his backyard. He was arrested with a woman's breast on his console of his vehicle. And just before he got arrested, he told me, I was at Hooters. The breast was in my pocket. I was fondling it, eating wings. I was really turned on watching the Hooters girls. And when I left Hooters, I tried to grab they were having a car wash. They used to do car washes. He said, I almost got her in my van and took her away, but she got loose. And later that day I got caught. Those are two of probably the creepiest guys I've ever talked to. When I go to visit Gibson on Indiana's death row, he always makes me a present. And I got it right here. He made me a violin out of popsicle sticks. Incredible, talented guy. You would never know he's a serial killer, but when he starts talking about what he did, he gets real excited. It's very creepy.
Have you ever had the opportunities, English is a second language for me, I'm from New York City, sorry, to meet or talk with Pat Sherrill?
I know that name, but no, I have not talked to that person.
Well, he went on a spree. I don't know if he qualifies. He should, but Crazy Pat, as he became known, is the reason for the whole going postal thing. The part-time postal carrier in Oklahoma, who had all the serial killer traits. He used to catch neighborhood pets and tie them up with baling wire and throw them in the middle of the road. He was voyeuristic. He had, all sorts of crazy, violent porn in his home. And he went crazy. And the interesting thing to me is I read a lot about him. And after he was, of course, caught, everybody said, oh, yeah, we called him Crazy Pat. I mean, he just gave off the vibe. But most don't, do they? No,
they don't. They don't do that. I guess if you were in their element, you probably see it if you were around them, But most of the time, of course, I'm seeing them behind bars or whatever. They're in a little different element. But I want to say another thing to you guys that you find this interesting. So early FBI profilers, I think it was Ressler, came up with the term serial killer, right? And I put a new term in my new book called singular serial killer, right? So it's a new term that I think we need is when somebody kills somebody in a horrific fashion and they only kill one, it's not just a regular murder, and they probably would have gone on to kill more people. So I'm calling them a singular serial killer. So here's a guy that I just studied. He grabbed a little 10-year-old boy. He raped him. He killed him. He sodomized his corpse, cut off his penis, cut off his hands, kept him in his house. That's a fucking serial killer. He just only killed one person. So I would call him a singular serial killer. And I see that often too. And it's like, oh man, this guy's not a serial killer, but he would have been, little different thought on that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the interesting part that, you see it or it stops, thankfully, before it gets, out of hand. I want to talk to you about your training that you do with law enforcement, the FBI, and all that. Just take us through just the steps you want to get out to law enforcement, because cops always think they're the smartest people in the world, and we've been surrounded by them forever. So when you come in and kind of bring them down, like, no, that's not true. No, that's not true. This is how you do it. Just walk us through your training of law
Well,
enforcement.
I really love training law enforcement. I've been doing it since 2009 when my new book came out, that big book came out. So what is it, about 16 years now? It's been a lot of fun to train the FBI, law enforcement, SROs, all kinds of levels. And they appreciate it because my training is fast moving, banging, crazy, crime scene, more crime scenes you'll ever see in your life. Live calls from serial killers, live calls from school shooters. It's something that they've never seen before. And they're used to seeing a guy with a suit and tie up there, some retired cop and blah, 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 and they're going to talk about a case and they show one crime scene photo. I come out swinging like they've never seen before, So it's been very successful. And I believe they respect what I'm saying. And I believe they learn, it's important what I'm teaching them that they get this, So it's been great. I'm speaking for 7 more months. So my next gig, I leave Sunday and I train all the SROs and the juvenile officers in New York. I'll be in Niagara Falls. I do that often and I love doing that. And it's been going well. I mean, I love doing it. Then I also do a fun show. It's a 2-hour evening show at wineries and breweries. It's called Serial Killers, The Experience, and it's just serial killers. But for the cops, it's juvenile killers, it's school shooters, how to keep schools safe, how do you spot a teen killer, how do you spot a juvenile, school shooter. We talk about mass murder, spree killers, family annihilators. We cover it all. So it's called it's profiling. The class is called Profiling Dangerous People, and it covers everybody. And it's just a great class, and I think they're enjoying it. I want to say one more quick thing to your people, just some quick definitions of the FBI. A mass murderer has to kill 4 people at one time in one location. So to be a mass murderer, you have to kill 4. To be a serial killer, you have to kill 2 with a cooling off period, and you have to love killing people. A spree killer kills 2 or more in short period of time in different locations, kind of like Tom was talking about that spree killer. It's short time, no cooling off, multiple locations, 2 or more. Those are kind of our definitions of serial, mass, and spree killers.
So fascinating stuff. I would love to see that course, first of all. Would love to do that. And the Starkweather Fugate, that was a spree.
Early spree killer.
And that was, spree killing, most of it. You did a lot of work in the area of school shooters, and it's a fascinating subject, and everybody's fascinated by it. Tom he did a great case actually stopping one years ago. But what do people believe a lot of things, right? They want to believe the trench coat mafia. They want to believe the kid has always been bullied and all that kind of stuff. But what are some commonalities that you've seen? I've heard some stuff, but I'm just curious from your perspective that you've seen in school shooters.
To your listeners and viewers, you can go to philchalmers.com and you could download a free notebook that law enforcement uses. So that's a free resource from this podcast that we can give to you, and just click it, download it, and it'll have the causes, warning signs, triggers, an interview for you to do your next interview with a kid or a parent. And then all the serial killer research is in the new book on Amazon. But, I came up with 13 causes, 13 reasons why kids kill. I came up with about 20 warning signs and 6 triggers. And it's now been time tested now for decades. So it works. And the biggest number one cause of why kids kill is they don't have a dad. So the fatherless component is number 1. Number 2, we're not surprised, it's unstable, dysfunctional, abusive home. Number 2. And then we start getting into suicidal, using drugs and alcohol, fascination with death and guns. There's 13 of them. Mental illness is the least common, but it's there as well. Some very rarely, but some of the killers are mentally ill. But it's pretty trackable, pretty traceable, and we see most killers have like 6 of those causes in their life. 3 to 6 is the common average. To be in the danger zone, I tell people when they read my causes, you got to have 3 to 6 to be in the danger zone.
So real quick, Tom, to follow up on that, one of the things I've heard is the violent video imagery and obsession with it, coming home and watching playing violent video games, and that whole desensitization to violence piece. Is that something you've seen as well?
Yes. Myself and Colonel Dave Grossman are two of the ones that are out here speaking about that. We believe it's a contributing factor. Now, it's not the only factor. It won't just, if you just play Grand Theft Auto, you're not going to be a killer. But it's definitely one of the 13 causes in my book and one of the top 5. So it's there because it's a desensitization of violence. And a lot of these kids start playing those games at 5 years old. So it's a very young age. Your brain's not developed. And all I can tell you is the killers who go to prison, and I interview them, they say, yeah, that definitely had an impact on them. Some of the serial killers will talk about movies and games that affected them too. And pornography. Big-time pornography is a big one for serial killers. Violent pornography.
Yep. The one thing I want to, touch on with you is something that Dan mentioned, did a case and we thankfully stopped one from happening before it happened. And one of the things that we learned that I want you to talk about, because we do have teachers and kids and all that who watch our show and law enforcement as well, the leaking. We heard a lot of that when we did our case, with just these kids who have this in their head, just the inability to completely keep it inside them, and they just put out little pieces and little pieces. And that's something that teachers and other students should be aware of. So how's your view on that?
We call it leakage, and it is a thing, and you're right. All these school shootings should be stopped. There's always a warning sign. And typically, a lot of times now it's social media. It used to be telling people in person, but now it's in social media. But, kids posting pictures with guns, or kids posting, posts about wanting to kill themselves or hurt other people. Obsession with violence and death, suicidal tendencies leads them right into a homicidal crime, a homicide. Drawing pictures, posting videos of animal cruelty. The kid from Uvalde posted a video on YouTube of him holding a bag of dead cats that he killed. People drawing things and threatening teachers, trying to get help. Kip Kinkle. There's always a sign. The Columbine kids had all kind of warning signs that were missed. In fact, in the class photo, at the Columbine class photo, they were acting like they had guns pointing at the photographer of the class photo. People saw that and didn't react to it. It's amazing to me. So there's always a sign, and all the warning signs are in my notebook and I have a couple books out on Amazon about juvenile killers, but the notebook's free. You can check it out. It has all the warning signs in it.
So I find it interesting you mentioned that you and Dave Grossman have some similarities in how you approach things. I've met him multiple times. I've read almost everything he's ever written, and I think he's fascinating and very, very bright in this area, and I've learned a lot from him. But one of the things I learned, and I'm not sure if it was from him or somebody else, but it had to do very simply with killing caretakers. A lot of school shooters will kill their caretakers before they go to the school. Is that something you've seen as a commonality?
It does happen sometimes. Woodham. There's been a couple that have done that. Typically, though, I'll tell you this: when I see these school shooters, especially, kill their parents. Now, a lot of kids kill their parents. There's a lot of family annihilators, but the school shooter demo that kill their parents, typically they do it because they want a gun or a car or something like that. They kind of want to get their parents out of the way, and they might have to use their guns or their cars. So a lot of times they'll do that. Like Luke Woodham killed his mother, stabbed her, beat her to death, took her rifle and her car and drove to school in Pearl. That's more along the lines of what I've been seeing.
When it comes to the safety of law enforcement, first responders, and military personnel, every moment counts, especially in the dark. Streamlight provides the reliable, high-performance lighting solutions that these heroes trust in the most dangerous situations, whether it's a car stop, navigating dark alleyways, or exploring abandoned buildings. With Streamlight by their side, our heroes can tackle challenges with confidence, knowing they have the power of advanced lighting technology to guide them. From the first responders on the front lines to the law enforcement officers ensuring our safety, Streamlight is there to make every mission a little easier and much safer. Join us in supporting those who protect us Visit streamlight.com to discover how you can be part of the team keeping our heroes safe. Because when they shine, we all shine.
Have you ever wished you could go back in time and see the events that shape the true crime cases that fascinate you? With newspapers.com, it's like having a time machine to the past. Dive into more than 1 billion newspaper pages from 1690 to 2025 and relive the headlines that shocked entire towns. Explore newspapers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond with a simple search. Read the breaking news as it happened, crime scene reports, witness testimonies, and courtroom drama. Explore forgotten clues and see how the media shaped the narrative of infamous cases. But it's not just the major stories. Newspapers.com lets you dig into local mysteries, missing persons reports, and the small-town scandals that history forgot. It's the closest you can get to being there when it all unfolded. So, if you're ready to dig deeper into the crimes that keep you up at night, start your journey today at newspapers.com. Use the code GOLDSHIELDS for an exclusive 20% discount on your subscription.
Wow. So, I mean, Phil, we could literally, we just joked around before we came on the air about how long we were going to go, and we said 4 hours, and we could actually do that with you. What do you have coming up? What's on the horizon? What do what's next for you, my guy?
So I've got, I just came out with this book, Speaking Truth to Evil, and it comes, it's in all formats. So you can get it on Audible, you can get it on Kindle. This is a banger, man. And there's a chapter in there for teachers and parents on how basically I believe in the United States, we are raising, manufacturing, and creating killers from a young age. We are doing it, the United States. And then we're shocked when they kill people. That's a banger. That book is a must, and it's the cheapest on Amazon right now. And I got this museum I'm opening April 3rd. It's a serial killer true crime museum in North Carolina. It'll be unlike anything in the world. There is no true serial killer museum operated by the guy that talks to them. So it's going to be a unique experience. It's immersive. And so that's going to be cool. And you guys can come and do a podcast episode at the museum. I'd love to have you. We'll have a serial killer call in. Like we do an evening at the museum where serial killers call in live for an evening, like almost like a ghost tour, but it's real. And you guys can do a pod. We'll have some pod. A lot of the podcast guys want to come out and do that. We'll do that with you guys.
Oh my God.
My tour dates are on my website. I'm touring all over the place, and you can come out and see me live, which is the next 7 months. You can get my new book, and April, I'll be done speaking. I'll retire from that, and I'll be in my museum every day. So I'll be starting in April. Yeah.
Well, we're going to be there. I mean, that's a guarantee. You just invited us. We're going to be there. I can't wait to see it. My wife is going to want to live there.
By the way, women make up 80% of true crime fans. So
that's wrong.
Yeah, we know that.
We've seen it right on me.
So
yeah, how about that? We can't. You know what? We can't even publicize that much because we'll have how many just of our friends and people close to us will want to be there. But that's a must. We will certainly be there.
I talk a lot about crime prevention in the book. There's a lot of crime prevention because that's kind of my passion. And I just want to tell you, after talking to killers for 40 years, I always ask them at the interview, before I end the interview, I say, if you were going to come kill me, what do you not want to see in my house? And they say 3 things, overwhelming top 3 answers in this order: dog, gun, cameras. BTK told me personally, Dennis Rader said, if I had a dog, my wife, Wendy, would never be his victim. In fact, if we had dog prints in the yard, he wouldn't come in near the house. So I always tell my audience, you need to have 2 of these. All right. So if you own a gun, you're a cop, great. Or in a steel safe, get yourself a dog or cameras. If you don't like guns, that's cool. You're friends with all of us. You have no choice now. You got to buy a big ass dog and some cameras. And that's what I think is a good deterrent and keep people safe. Also, don't get involved in risky lifestyles like gangs, buying and selling sex, buying and selling drugs, selling shit on Facebook Marketplace, and dating crazy people. Domestic.
Tom, you got some lifestyle changes to do.
Yeah, let me go online right now. Hold on.
Delete that Tinder profile real quick.
Adjust all my social media stuff.
It's funny. The things you named as the 3 things that you can do to minimize the same thing as burglary. Actually, Burglars are not going to come into your house if they hear a full-throated dog barking, and if they see a burglar alarm sign in front of your house, and they have any indication that you've got cameras, what's the point? There's plenty of houses that don't have that.
Exactly. And a lot of people, when I ask them that question live, they're like, "Oh, lights." I go, "Well, lights is not that's good," but they really, it's an eye opener for a lot of people. And you could obviously, we didn't even get into the crime thing, worldwide crime and everything. I always tell people, in the United States of America, our problem with guns and all that is handguns in the hood. So the media talks about mass shootings. 1% of victims die in mass shootings. 1% of murder victims. They talk about assault rifles, AR-15s. That's 2% of all gun murders are assault. 2% of murders are assault rifles. So really, the problem we have is handguns, 80%, and in the hood. Where I'm from, in inner city Cleveland. I'm from the hood. I could say that, and 80% of murders happen in the hood. So our problem, to your people around the world, they're all like, "How do you live in the United States? You don't get killed today." I don't live in the hood. Sorry with that. I limited 80% chance of being murdered today. So the media kind of uses all kinds of scare tactics, and the media counts mass shootings as 4 shot people. They don't count deaths. Just if you shoot 4 people, you're a mass shooting. So, example, in 2023, the FBI said there were 40 mass murders. Most of those happened in inner city. Where the media reported there were 653 mass shootings. People go, "Holy shit, we're all going to die." Yeah, if you live in the hood, because that's where they're happening at, drive-bys. So be careful of the numbers, I would say to all your fans. Be careful of the numbers. Be careful of the studies. Man, if they're not done by the FBI, Homeland Security, Secret Service, I'd be very, very leery of any other kind of studies, numbers, or documentaries.
That's outstanding. That's fabulous. And I can't wait to read the book and start putting some truth to the myths and all the kind of stuff that commonly held beliefs often fall apart. And I love when people do that kind of work. So thank you for doing the work
Thank you.
to help us
And
notice.
if you get good feedback, I'll check out the book and I'll come back on. We'll do another one of these. I don't do these very often, but I'll do it with you guys again. So.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And you know what? Everybody out there on YouTube, Serial Killers, The Experience, his book, Speaking Truth to Evil, philchalmers.com. Go to all of them. If you're a fan of all this and it interests you, why not get it from the leading expert who doesn't just sit behind a computer, write papers, write books. He's out there talking to these individuals, let's just say that, and getting it right from them. Unbelievable, man. I mean, we could have done this all day. You are one impressive, interesting guy, Phil. Thank you so much for being here. Really
appreciate you guys having us on, and my website has a lot of content for your fans. So
we look forward to it. We look forward to more from you and for the opening of the museum. And we wish you nothing but the best. And thank you so much for your time today, Phil.
And we will be there. We'll set that all up. This is a point in our show. Make sure you pray for our law enforcement officers out there. Pray for their families. Say a prayer for them. Say hi to them on the street. Pat them on the back and say thank you. Our men and women in the military, our law enforcement, first responders, please take care of them in your thoughts, because they're out there chasing people, like Phil just explained, for not a lot of fanfare, for not a lot of money, and they're out there with the most dangerous people walking the earth. So please keep them in your prayers. TheGoldShieldShow.com, YouTube.com/@GoldShields, and every audio channel you can think of. Keep following us, keep supporting us. We love it. We don't have a show without all of you. So for Phil Chalmers, for my partner Dan Murphy, this is Tom Smith once again. Everyone stay safe. Don't go anywhere. We got overtime coming up. Everyone stay safe. We'll see everybody soon.
Hey, as promised, we're back. It's the OT, overtime. Cops love overtime, and they also love amazing stories and amazing people, don't we?
You think you knew serial killers? You think, we had someone, we got this, and talked about, talk about an expert. My God. It's amazing what is in that guy's brain and what he knows.
He spent a 40-year career studying and interviewing and learning everything there is to know about serial killers. putting it into books, putting it onto specials, putting it into a podcast, being interviewed by Dr. Phil and all kinds of TV stations. He's down to earth as can be, but he is a walking encyclopedia about the subject of serial killing, mass shootings, school shootings. He's just a fascinating guy. What an amazing insight we just had.
Yeah, I mean, and like we said, we could have done this all day, with what he knows and just picked apart each serial killer he's talked to and just went into a different story about that serial killer, from Berkowitz to, I mean, the guy talked to Charles Manson.
Yeah.
There's a handful of people who've done that.
I don't think anybody's talked to all the people he's talked to. I think that would almost be impossible. John Wayne Gacy, all these, you name them. And then there's the point he brought out, which was fascinating to me. How many names that probably should be household names in terms of serial killing, but are not because they don't fit the mold that the media wants.
Right.
And how the Black community is overlooked in terms of their victims.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. I can't wait to read his book. I can't wait to go to his museum opening in April, which is going to be fascinating. He's showing us, for those who are listening, he was showing us stuff, Samuel Little's hand-drawn picture of one of his victims, which is amazing. He drew one of every one of his 93 victims.
Yep. And the handprint of Richard Ramirez and the handprint of, was it Gacy?
No. Richard Ramirez, maybe? Yeah, the night
was one. Yeah. I mean, to have that at your disposal of, all right, let me grab this.
Yeah.
I mean, the museum is going to be incredible. And us doing a live show there is going to blow the roof off. That's going to be great.
I can't wait. I'm going to be like a kid in a candy store because I'm going to look at all this memorabilia and look at all this crime scene stuff. And it's fascinating.
How lucky is law enforcement and the FBI and all that to have someone like this training, them. Because, listen, Dan, it's a different, and neither one of us have investigated a serial killer, but there's so much that goes into it. It's a different level of an investigation of hitting every spot, and all that stuff. But to have someone like Phil in your corner, kind of, okay, here, this is incredible.
Yeah. And, he's about as well-versed as you're going to get. And, detectives across America, the vast majority of homicides that are out there are, I'm not going to say they're ground balls or common, but you have domestics, the husband did it. You have drug dealer shoots drug dealer. Eventually somebody gives it up. You have robbery where the guy leaves a fingerprint or whatever. And these are the typical cases, and they require good detective work and good interviewing skills and good evidence gathering, all of it. But then you have what the heck is this? Oh my God, crime scene, like he described. Like this is subhuman. And then it happens again. Well, that's when you need somebody who knows what they're talking about to help you figure out who did this, why, who you should be looking for. And he's that kind of guy.
Yeah. I mean, the resource that he is invaluable with it. And, you think of the stats and, you hear every day, crimes down, crimes this, crimes that. And then he comes on our show and says, yeah, there's probably 100 serial killers running around the country right now.
Yeah. And I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it because
not at all.
People seem to think it's very easy for law enforcement to go to a scene. Oh, we had a serial killer. No. Because like he said, long haul truckers who cross the country are in multiple jurisdictions, multiple states, doing what they're doing and not being put together necessarily. It doesn't work that way. It's not that easy.
Right. Or you have a serial killer that doesn't stick to a pattern and is all over the place. Richard Ramirez, we keep bringing him up, but he's the most famous example of this. And, Gil talked about it, that stab one, strangle one, shoot one, break into this, sexually assault this one. I mean, it was in different places. That blew them all out of the water when he went way up north near Frisco and did something and came back. I mean, when you have someone like that, it's very hard, like you said, to put it all together and then have the people who are making decisions believe you. Listen, it's hard to kind of step up and tell someone, Dan, hey, we got serial killer guys, and not have four of them look at you and go, no, we don't. Stop. When you're
big boss say, no, we don't. No,
right.
we don't. Yeah.
Right.
We do not
exactly.
have a problem. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it was fascinating. Go ahead, please.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's fascinating how he talks about the normalcy. How many he has sat down with them and they are normal until they're not, but
Right.
they're normal. And that's how they slide under the radar. John Wayne Gacy was a respected member of his community, a volunteer, member of the political machine in Chicago. Ted Bundy was a respected, handsome, popular, intelligent kid, young man who people looked up to and people liked, and he made friends easy, he gained trust easy, and he used all that. But he brings out the commonality, the normalcy of them, which is fast. You could be sitting next to them on a plane.
Right. Absolutely. Because of what they do, there's an intelligence that's involved in this. And that's the scariest part of just, sitting around. But you mentioned something before, about, we both did, about bringing out, hey, we think we have a problem. You look back, and I was young and you were younger. The only reason Son of Sam became Son of Sam was Jimmy Breslin. No one was putting that out that New York City had a serial killer running around until he put it out there of, the letters and all that and kind of piecing everything together. And then all the task forces got put up.
Yep, 76, 77. This was the infancy of the term serial killer and the actual concept of it. And it was scary to the public. And yeah, Jimmy Breslin put another fascinating guy, old school New York reporter, Jimmy Breslin, who made his bones by hanging out detective squads and drinking with them.
That's right.
Let him in on stuff. And he was the man of the street, is what he was.
Did he say Son of Sam? Was that his? Or because that was the letter? What didn't he sign the letter, Son of Sam? And that was the first on the front page.
He signed a letter, Son of Sam, and he taunted Captain Joe Borelli, who became chief of detectives, who I had the pleasure to serve under and was a great man. Taunted him as well. But fascinating case. Berkowitz still alive, New York State Prison.
Yes, he is. These are the shows, Dan, that we become like little kid fans. Well, I mean, a lot of times it's funny as hell. A lot of times we do the show, and both of us have talked about this. We think of questions that our audience is going to think of or they're asking. Today was like questions I had in my head about this.
Yeah.
About serial killers and thinking and how they do this. So you just become a fan of someone like Phil, and it's what a pleasure and how fortunate we are.
Yep. And we're going to have him on again. He's offering to do that. We're going to have him on. We're going to talk about various things because there's a wealth of information, fascinating people that he's very knowledgeable of because he knows them. So we're going to have him on again. And
with a serial killer on the phone.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, another one down, buddy.
Yep. Fantastic. Great show. And, we want to thank our OT sponsor, FairlineServices.com. Top shelf security services, upper Midwest, all across the country, actually. They have a network. FairlineServices.com. If you don't know what is going on, if you need investigative work, if you need background work, if you need surveillance, if you need uniform security, executive protection, whatever FairlineServices.com. Do yourself a favor, call the pros.
Yep. And of course, our premier sponsors, goals.com and tacticalgear.com. Check them both out. Gold 15 on both websites. Get 15% off your purchases until October 31st. They extended that for all our audience and everyone out there. Goals.com, tacticalgear.com. Check them out.
These are coming up next month with that too. That's going to go up. We'll tell you more.
Absolutely.
These are coming up.
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff coming up, man. But all good stuff. So, Dan, it was a pleasure again, pal. Great show. Everyone, again, stay safe. Keep checking us out. TheGoldShieldShow.com, YouTube.com/@GoldShields, and every audio channel you can think of to get all of your present shows, past shows, and stay tuned for our future ones. Everyone, stay safe. We'll see everybody soon.